Hey everybody, welcome back once again to the DANCNG SOBR podcast. I guess I should point out that we are in a beautiful little studio here, and we'll have more to talk about that in a minute once we bring in our guest. But I want to give a shout out, of course, like we always do, to our sponsors. Because of them, we continue to do this and bring this to you. I want to give a big shout out to PICARESCA Cafe. PICARESCA Cafe is a little coffee shop out in Boyle Heights near Soto and Olympic. The address is down here below. Go check them out. They have food pop-ups. They have all of the coffee styles that you like and all of the blended ices that you crave. Check them out inside of the little mini mall over on Soto near Olympic. Picaresca is also the roasters of our coffee, our little coffee bags here. Hit me up if you're interested in getting a bag. I still haven't put them on the website, but I will be selling at Caminarte in December and at another sale at other books. So follow me on Instagram to keep up with that and to know when you can get some of that coffee. Also, don't forget to go to our shop online to get some of your Christmas gifts and buy some of our merch so that we can continue to do this as well. Another shout out to Espacio. Even though we're not there this week, they are still our little home base. So a big shout out to Espacio 1839. Visit them online, espacio1839.com. Get some of your Christmas shopping done there. Big shout out to Esquina Bike Shop. Esquina Bicycle Shop is over on Boyle and Whittier. And they're our local, bike stop. They have everything that you need, plus a lot of other things that you might not need but really want. So check out Esquina Bicycle Shop. Follow them on Instagram down here below and at their website, Esquina Bicycle Shop. Also for your holiday needs, they got all the stuff you want. And you can also order things that they might not have in stock. I also want to give a big shout out to En Route Sparkling Cold Brew Tea. They sent me a box of these little babies over the weekend, and I've been enjoying them one every day. My favorite so far has been the lavender one, but also they have a blueberry mint that's tasty. All these very interesting flavors that they have. Thank you so much, En Route Sparkling Cold Brew Tea, for sending me that. So let's get into this episode today and the reason why we're here in the studio. And today's guest is Luis Fernando Guizar. Hey everybody, welcome back to the DANCNG SOBR podcast. And today we are in the special place thanks to our guest today, Luis Fernando Guizar. I just found out your middle name, so I'm having fun with it.
Yeah, no, enjoy it. Fernando is it goes way back.
Yeah. Well, of course it goes
way back.
Way back.
Family was just
to when you were born.
Fernando. Oh, I'm not going to make it. Yeah.
So when you were little, they called you Fernando, and you changed it to Luis yourself?
Luis Fernando. Yep. Luis Fernando is
what was it that your family called you?
It was, okay. Wow, that's interesting that you bring this up. My mom's name is Victorina, and she was going to name me Victor René. And her homegirl back in the day was like, well, I like that name. And her son was born first. So Victorina, Victor René, lost it.
Wow.
And then my mom was all like, well, Fernando is grandpa's name.
Yeah.
Her dad. And she went with Luis Fernando. I mean, that's super telenovela, bro. It's just like...
That's a trip. Well, I like to bring up names because...
Yeah.
I told a story a few weeks ago about how when I was in elementary, they changed my name to Ralph. So I grew up as a young person as Ralph, which is really different to when I got to ELAC and changed my name back to Rafael. Then I started getting called Rafa. But when I was little, my family nickname, which I've never said this before, but my family nickname was Philo or Filito, which is kind of like a way to say Rafaelito.
Right.
But they would just say Filito or Philo, which is just a weird name.
No, and eventually I got hit with Guizar.
Yeah.
Like,
because of your last name.
Because of the last name, and that was like fourth grade, and
Fourth grade, they started calling you that? Oh shit.
Yeah, it was Hector Ramos, and he was a fan of Black Sabbath, and he's like Guizar.
That's
when they do when they do the student call.
Yeah, roll call. Yeah.
It was Luis Fernando Guizar, and this redheaded, travieso Cholillo. He looks over, he's like, Guizar. And also
That's
like,
it.
yeah, and in fourth grade, it was
Stuck.
like, it's like, chill, bro, no. And by sixth grade, I was like, yeah, I'm Guizar. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty funny. And so it stuck.
You wore it.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's a good name. I like it.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
man. I didn't pick it, so that's what it is.
So let's go back a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we did already go back, but tell me about like where you were born and where you grew up.
Well, I'm from Santa Ana, California,
Mm-hmm.
and born and raised.
Your family had been in Santa Ana for a while.
Well, my mom came from Chihuahua, Mexico. My dad, my biological father, is from Michoacan, and my stepdad's from Jalisco.
Okay.
So it was kind of like this convergence of immigrants on Santa Ana back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was born, on Bristol Mercy Hospital. I went to high school there. I graduated from Century High School. That's where I discovered theater. And
Tell me
Yeah.
first before we
Yeah.
go that far.
Yeah.
I just want to know. Give me at least a couple stories about young Guizar and like,
Yeah.
kind of trouble you got into.
well,
It's
interesting, and this might play into something a little later, but no, man, we used to. Matter of fact, in those Guizar years, in the early,
You're still in the Guizar years.
I know.
You're gonna get into the old Guizar years.
Over, geez, yeah, the years are gonna go, and I'll stay the same. But we used to, me and Frank Flores, we used to run off to the riverbed in Santa Ana, the Santa Ana riverbed, right? And I mean that's where you used to go catch frogs.
Wow.
Ride the bike all the way down to Huntington Beach,
Yeah.
which was I want to say it was like a 17-mile round trip.
You were born in the 70s, right?
I was born in '74.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to put in perspective.
Yeah,
like,
Halloween '74.
just to put in perspective,
Yeah.
what years you were running around.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, it was early '80s.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely '83ish.
Yeah, those-
84, 84.
Those Stranger Thing years.
Oh, big time.
When
It
we
was-
rode bicycles and skateboards everywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the bikes and all that, and you got to know everyone in the neighborhood at the riverbed. That was the other thing. Everyone hung out there. It was the cool spot. But it was also at night. It just became troublesome. Of
course.
It became the attics and all the things that come out at night.
So when you were down there, did you have a big family?
No. It was quite the opposite. I mean, it was just myself and my mom. So it was very much a single mom situation for a while.
Yeah.
And and my stepdad came into the picture. He was the drywallero, construction guy. And he learned me some
Just
construction.
the word is funny, drywallero. Because
Drywallero.
that's how we like take English words and just make them Spanish by changing the ending, right?
Yeah. Put in.
So
you know,
you're a
yeah.
camaralero.
Yeah, a little bit. Camarero,
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
No. So, yeah, and I guess that was we all kind of became a happy family right around when I was 9,
Yeah.
more or less, and and that's where the chaos ensued. It was just like didn't want to be at home and just.
Oh, so you had some troubled kid years.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like it was. My mom was never around, kind of thing, and it was the '80s kids situation, and it was just travieso time,
Yeah,
and-
I mean, but then
yeah,
I've said this before, where like we just had like total freedom back then.
absolutely.
You get home, you say I'm gonna be outside, and you just
Yep.
just disappear, and
Yep,
you could go wherever the fuck you wanted. It
that's
wasn't
exactly what it was. And nobody told us at 9 that
No.
we couldn't go to the beach on our bikes.
Yeah.
Down the Santa Ana riverbed.
Yeah,
you
we
know.
just
It's
crazy,
It's
right?
crazy. And it's like, we knew that when, El Salvador Park, the park that was across the street from me, once Los Cholillos showed up, it was kind of time,
time
you
to
wrap
go,
it up.
because you don't want to deal with that. shit
There's something
either.
going on. You
Yeah.
you don't want to be the butt of the jokes or whatever.
Yeah.
So you gotta-
Or you never know when one of them gets a little crazy and starts to fucking
Yeah.
want to fight people.
Yeah, we used, I guess a lot of neighborhoods have a champ that's used to be a boxer and is always running around, right? Or at least in their imagination.
Yeah,
So, definitely had some of that. It was pretty cool.
So high school then, and then
Kind of cool. Yeah, so I went to high school. And
College.
I went to Century High. And that was where I discovered, I tried to do a lot. It was in advance. They just opened it up back in 1989, and I was there for the last 2 years, my junior and senior year. And
it was an advanced what?
I'm sorry, it was technologically advanced. It was
that's cool.
networked. It had Apple computers. And I was like, oh, I gotta get me there. I gotta go over there. You know. But I was a very dedicated wrestler as well. So yeah, and the cauliflowers, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a birth defect, though. It's
Well, I hadn't noticed, but yeah.
But anyway, so wrestling, was very committed to that, and theater. So.
How did you get into theater, and tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Just
Well, I think it was an elective, and somehow I landed in theater, and the guys because everything else had run out or something along these lines, and I was like, yeah, I'll just take theater. That's what it is, because I was kind of.
So you were not
flirting.
looking to be in the acting?
Not necessarily, no.
Yeah.
It started as speech and debate team,
Yeah,
and then it, the teacher of that was doing theater was also taking care of the speech and debate. And it just so happened that one of the coaches married the drama teacher, and so
Get this guy.
shout out to my Century High School family, Brandy and Rick Lara, back in the day, and they kind of led me into, all these fields, really. It was drama, and the wrestling definitely kept me off the streets. It got my grades above C+, you know what I mean? Because you had to.
You have to, yeah.
Same thing with the drama, And, but that's where I discovered, I remember doing, for the first class assignment, I did some monologue in an August Wilson play.
Okay.
And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember just zoning, just going into it. And the teacher, Brandy, drama teacher, she caught, she was like, okay, all right, you're there. I'm like, yeah, like, I don't know theater, I know crazy, So.
Once you start saying the words, it'll take you.
Yeah.
So.
And I had no depth to understand August Wilson, of course, but, or maybe I did, or maybe it was instinctive that I understood a certain anger in that monologue.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hooked after that.
Well, I also remember, I don't remember what play it was from either, but I did a little monologue back when I was that young about a fucking grasshopper.
Yeah.
I forgot what, I'm trying to figure out which that was, but I had the same feeling where I just disappeared into somewhere else, and just felt that bug, right?
Yeah.
So when you catch that zone, you kind of want to keep trying to catch it.
It was
again and again.
storytelling. It was storytelling.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool. It kind of made sense.
Yeah.
And that led to theater my junior and senior year. But it was like, High School Musical theater. It was like Annie.
Yeah.
I mean, I was President Roosevelt, I believe. And,
No
like,
way.
yeah, dude, I was
That's
in a
hilarious.
chair, and, like, the hair was all white, and I had a cigar, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then there was also Little Orphan Annie. I mean, we did the Brown version,
Of course.
these a little bit. But it was a lot of fun. You got to know the technicalities that makes theater and all that. And towards the end of high school, I was like, all right, well, I think I'm gonna major in theater. You know? And
So you went to college as a theater major?
I went to junior college,
Okay.
Golden West. I went to Golden West because everyone from back home was going to, like, back then it was Rancho San Diego, Santa Ana College. Everyone was going to the same JCs, and I was like, I gotta get out. I gotta get out of Santa Ana, or is this just gonna become a party?
So where was this?
So I went to Golden West, and that was a bus ride away, and that's in Huntington Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, and they had a decent theater program there. It was interesting. It was very Orange County, Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was an interesting culture clash for sure. And in between these things, it was the Pete Wilson era as well. So, theater, Pete Wilson, politics, boom, Chicano theater.
Yeah.
Boom, Teatro Campesino. Boom, what's the Zoot
You did
Suit
Teatro
stuff?
Campesino?
Oh, no.
You learned about it, yeah.
Learned about Teatro Campesino and all that as I, crash landed into Golden West College.
Nice.
And because it was such, that part of Orange County, the brown kids kind of all, hung out. So that's where Mecha came in, So that's where a sort of political awareness started to develop. Right? And that kind of led to a sort of social political awareness, right? And And somewhere in there, I also transferred over to film. I applied to a few schools. I got into UCLA. Wound up finishing up undergrad there as a film major.
Do you remember any of the plays that you did as a theater major before we jump into the film?
Oh boy, as a theater major, it was musical shit.
Yeah.
It was like anything goes. It was like
Are you serious?
West Side Story.
that's cool.
You know what I mean?
But you can sing too, then.
No, hell no.
But you
Hell
can
no.
dance.
I was that guy. It's like, yeah.
Just jazz hands is all you learned, and that was it.
Yeah, but it was
That's hilarious, dude.
yeah, but it was
Yeah.
it was class points. But in exchange, it was like, oh man, I want to do. I remember doing my wildest, acting project was basically this Edgar Allan Poe short story, which was I think called The Red Room, right?
I don't know that one.
And
The Red Room.
yeah, I'm blanking out on that name. Don't hold me on it. But it was a very long monologue, and I memorized that whole thing, just trying to challenge myself. And at the same time, I was discovering like Joaquin Murrieta and Soldado Raso and all these other plays. Eventually,
Is that what like brought you towards East LA, towards LA,
so what
downtown?
happened was, there was going to be a Metro conference at Golden West, and I wound up directing this Teatro Campesino one act, I think it was. It wound up not happening, but in all of that, Danny de la Paz came to Golden West. And he was very gracious and just
Right around the time of American Me. And
yeah,
all that.
a little after. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was very, he was very warm, very welcoming, and all that. And at some point, good to meet you, all that. And at some point, I think what happened is that I had to give him a ride back to Echo Park. I think that's what it was. And so I gave him a ride
Classic
back.
Mexican fucking
Yeah,
shit.
I got you, bro.
Can you give me a ride back home?
I got you. I think it worked out something like that, but it was, it was part of the deal. It's like, he was doing us the favor, so it's like, there was no Uber back then, and and we got to talking all that. We became very, friends. I haven't seen him in years. Hi, Danny. But at some point after that, he reached out and he's all, hey, at Plaza de la Raza, they're having auditions. The Latino Theater Company is having a workshop.
August 29th.
No, it was even before that. It was just a workshop for younger theater folk.
Oh,
And
okay.
you had folks from Northridge, from East LA, from ELAC, I believe, and from Cal State LA, and then Maya. But I got invited to the audition, and I got into that workshop, and that's where I met a lot of folks from UCLA, and back then it was Jose Luis Valenzuela,
yeah.
Evelina Fernandez. I got to meet Sal Lopez.
Back then, it still is them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it still is them. I know it's a time warp, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just they're still doing it. Bless them.
Yeah.
They're killing it. And met Lupe Ontiveros.
Yeah.
Got to hang out with some of these amazing folks, and and that was very inspiring. But I had applied for UCLA, got into film, so that's the direction I started to go in. So it was a little less theater for me and more short films and more trying to do that stuff.
Do you know what
Yeah.
like brought you towards film, or was
Well,
it just?
What happened is in Orange County, I was part of a Chicano theater group called Teatro Cometa in Fullerton.
So, I'm only tripping
Yeah.
out because
Yeah.
like I was in a thing called Teatro Nueva Alma, and
Yeah.
then John Valadez last week was talking
Yeah.
about Teatro Corazon.
Right.
And then you had Teatro Cometa.
Yeah.
It's all these like
Yeah. I mean, these were remnants from
these
that.
cool names
that
from
late
back in the days.
But
yeah.
it was Teatro Cometa supposedly because it came around every once in a while.
You didn't do a lot of shows.
We did. I mean, they had a theater there. Jaime Gomez, it was, I believe. And I was a understudy for someone that left, and I got into that, into that troupe for a season. And that was my true Chicano theater experience. We got
I
into
had no idea you were this deep in the theater,
We
dude.
got into vans. Yeah, we got into vans, rented a U-Haul. We went down SoCal. We went down to Yuma. We went down to South Phoenix. We finished up at Su Teatro in Denver. So I had the real traveling carpa experience. We were setting up theater, in garages in South Phoenix. Wow. that was amazing. The brakes went out, right? So, Jaime hires like some local mecánico to do it. And, it didn't work out, but, we put on another show. We went to make copies at Kinko's. We passed them around all of this area of South Phoenix. Like, hey, we're stuck here for another night. One more show, and somebody was kind enough to open up their garage.
Wow.
So I had an honest barrio teatro experience, and I had that in Santa Ana too, on 2nd Street, Flower Street Park, at the handball courts. It used to have like puppet shows, but all the kids would be there, and it's like, don't do drugs, and then these shows. It was just, it was a good attempt at community arts programs. But yeah, so to me it wasn't so foreign that you had Spanglish, coming to the 2nd Street and second and Flower and Santana back in the day, and so it all felt right, and I wasn't shy, so it was really probably one of my favorite performances performing in that garage because families started to show up. It was baby carriages, veteranos, everyone from the neighborhood, and we just put on a show, and just having them have laughs was amazing, and this was in the early 90s. So that's an experience, as far as I'm concerned, that's from the 70s, that experience.
Yeah.
Where you used to go around the neighborhoods like that. And so that was interesting. Yeah.
What was it that led you to film?
So in this group, there was an actor in this troupe that was, he was already LA bound. Yeah. And he says, hey, I need a scene actor. I'm going for an audition in Hollywood. Are you down? I'm like, yeah, all right, let's go. Let's go. I was going to be the little brother. And auditioned for a film called Bang. I'm sure you can find it online.
Bang?
Bang, by Ash Baron Cohen. I got the role of the little brother. And I die. On camera. But that was like a dope experience. It was like firsthand independent cinema experience. Wow. It was with a Panavision 35mm package that they finagled through some producer hookup and all these hookups that had to happen to make this film in a super independent way. That was I want to say that was 93, 94. And I got that role. That went well. And somewhere a little after that, when I was part of this theater, this youth theater camp that happened at Plaza de la Raza circa 94, I can't remember now. Danny de la Paz came in and was like, hey, there's auditions for this film called Star Maps.
Oh, shit.
I'm like, all right, so, a handful of us went, and I had it, man. I had that lead. But it didn't happen.
Oh.
It didn't happen.
I was going to say.
It came close. But I wound up getting a small bit part in it. And
I saw that movie.
I was very,
I was at the first screening and at the party at the athletic club.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there. So, that was
trip.
back in the day. I was one of the prostitute boys.
Oh, shit.
Slaying Star Maps.
I got to watch it again. Look for you in there.
Oh, man. Homies love, clowning on that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's a good little film. And then
it's a great
that's
independent
Miguel.
film. Miguel Arteta.
Yeah, Miguel Arteta
and
was like
Chuy
first
Chavez,
fucking film. Yeah, Chuy, the DP.
The DP.
Fucking amazing.
And I believe it was Matthew Green that was the producer.
Yeah, dude.
And I was like, oh, cool. It's like, I'm like,
that's LA independent cinema history, dude.
Back to back.
Yeah.
So I had Bang, and then I had Star Maps, and then I got like 3 or 4 more roles. I was like, okay, this is cool. Yeah. And then what happened is that the roles became, stand there, be brown, and be mad, and be
when you start
all the stereotypes.
When you start to get into like bigger productions, but it becomes that, right?
Yeah.
I fucking hated it.
Yeah. Be brown, be mad, stand there. Yeah. And I did about 8 more months of auditioning.
Be brown, be mad, stand there.
Brown, be mad, stand there. That kind of shit.
Hilarious. That's a good T-shirt.
But, yeah. What happens? My happy ass, I'm offended. Chicano theater, we're dignified. Our stories are complicated. Yeah. This is bullshit, you know? And I'm like, this is insulting.
Yeah.
And but I had to go to these auditions to be like, no, can't do it. Can't do it. Couldn't do it anymore. And there are a few films out there. So, unfortunately, if you find me online, it always goes to me as an actor, which is cool.
IMDb.
Yeah, when I get IMDb, it shows up some of my actor credits, but that's from the '90s.
Yeah.
But it was a fun era, and that's what led me into all this
being
happened at the
around
same
it,
time.
right?
Yeah, all this happened at the same time, and that led to me being a PA and a second AD on these low budget non-union jobs in Hollywood. So PAing, moving speakers around.
Yeah, whatever.
On
Getting coffee.
set, music videos, all that. So that was back in the day, and that led to that experience on set instantly. That took me to second AD, second assistant director on commercials, and that was before I was at UCLA, before I was in the film school. So
Wow.
yeah, so I went to film school. And I was like, oh, man.
Way later.
yeah.
You're probably like the viejito there, right?
Well, kind of. I mean, my class was
Because most people come in at 18,
class
19.
of 96. I was a little older. Yeah. And, it was class of 96.
Okay.
Came in. Yeah.
So you're in your 20s, not you're
I was still in my 20s. Yeah. 24, 25-ish. And that's what kind of led to that. That's how independent cinema came into me. That's kind of what it became, my creative interests. That's what they became. Let's put the acting in the storytelling realm. What's the storytelling look like? Why can't there be more dignified brownness on camera? Why are we so simple? So a lot of that was happening.
Did you immediately like just go to the camera or was it, because I mean you're doing film school, did you want to be a director or did you know you wanted to like?
Yeah, so in film school,
Because I guess you have a lot more titles than one. I mean, I know that.
on set, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I see you as a
right.
DP in camera.
Generally, yes, professionally, I'm a DP and an LD,
Okay.
which has led to the skill set that I have that made this place. But we'll get into that in a sec. So in film school, what happened is that it was so hard to get the 16 millimeter cameras. So
That were available
That were
at the school.
available because we were undergrad, so it was the grad students that always had first call, first dibs, and you had to wait. So your destiny was uncertain. So for me, it was like, no, okay, I got to get a camera. I got to get a camera. Myself and it was two other film students, Chris and Samuda. We brought our resources together and bought a CP16 and Auricon with a lens, with film mags, and it was great because I presented. I told my classmates, it was David Aguilar back in the day, George Sanchez, who's now George San Vargas, George Gomez. It was a very interesting cohort. There was some brown kids, and I'm like, hey, I got a camera. I can shoot our films whenever we want. There was no waiting on it, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it happened. That's how I became more and more of a DP.
Wow.
I shot a lot of my classmates' films. I'm also forgetting Andre Rivas shot his thesis as well. And so, and that's how that happened. Graduated school, finished school, and shortly after that, finished school, and that's when I realized that, wow, I didn't really study writing. I didn't study the screenwriting. So I spent some time after school in that whole literary, dive, poetry and all that. But, you get so broke and you're like, oh, man, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
So as a broke poet, reader of sorts in Highland Park, back in '99, and that led to me being so broke that I started taking any kind of job that came in on set. And so, went way back down the rung. He's like, yeah, I'll PA. Yeah, I'll be, oh, you're good. Get on the grip team. I'm like, yeah, sure. Sandbags, no problem. Blue collar.
Yeah.
It's like,
Muscle.
it doesn't matter if you went to film school and you know how to shoot and expose and all these things. Yeah. But I also realized that my lighting skill set was weak. And I remember wishing that at some point. Like, dang, I wish I was. Lighting is, back then, you had to have gloves. The lights were hot. Real electricity, you can die. It's no longer, it's not what it is today. It's not this LED stuff where it's just like, oh, that doesn't look good. Let's go ahead and tweak it until it works. It wasn't any of that back then. So, but I'm thankful for it because you had to be very precise. You had to be clear in your decisions, which was very important. Once I eventually became a gaffer, back in the mid 2000s. And for me, I was always going to be a filmmaker. I was always a filmmaker. So it's like, oh, wow, I'm making a sweet pot of money as a gaffer, as a maverick, non-union person in this town. Well, I'm going to buy gear because I'm a filmmaker. It's like, I'm going to make movies. I'm going to make something, you know, get this lack of dignity.
Might as well have your stuff
Might as well
ready.
have my own kit. And I did some of that for the better part of the 2000s. And I was also editing, nonlinear editing. You know, I was kind of early to that game a little bit.
Avid or?
No, I was on Media 100 back in the day.
Okay.
It was, you know, it was kind of like I brought, I shook money out of my my family on my dad's side. Well, I graduated school, yo.
Yeah.
You know, hook it up. So
That's cool, man.
but I learned how to edit, so I further understood what the editing craft was. That got me the information, like, oh, wow, that's bad coverage. Oh, wow, you didn't have enough footage. Oh, that is not going to cut well. So that really led to what eventually became, you know, I was always refining the directing. I was always refining the filmmaking. And for me, it was like, learn all this.
All the aspects.
Learn it all, because that's how you're going to save a lot of money to make the thing you want to make.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always like, you know, since I was a kid, you know, since I was young, like, just grab all the toys and we'll figure out how we're going to set it up. You know, so some of that started happening. I climbed up that ladder. I became a lighting designer. You know, some ABC shows, some Bravo shows, some, you know, eventually, and a lot of that lighting equipment was mine. It started to become more and more lighting equipment that I started to gather. And, you know, you don't realize that actually gives you producer power, because you have the kit that not many people have. You still charge your clients, of course, but at that time, that's when I started exploring how can I do more with it. So I would try to do more than just the motion picture stuff. So here's where the fine art, that's where I start to get into the fine art realm a little bit, helping out at some galleries here and there, install.
How did you start to even, I mean, this is probably going to take you on another tangent, but how did you even start to get motion picture clients?
How does that's hard.
Is this when you were downtown already? Or?
No, so even before I was in
Yeah,
downtown.
that's what I thought,
Yeah, I mean, I was already working as a gaffer. I want to say it was like Pussycat Dolls and some ABC shows, and you know, it was in this whole reality show era where there was so much non-union production happening, and that all got started with a writer's strike sometime before. So because of that, they went with unscripted, and that became reality, and it was all it was the Wild West, and that was you know, that was me saying, let me get in, let me get some of that. But that's also very difficult work, you know. And I still have I made a lot of lifetime friends working on some of these reality shows. You know, some of them are now EPs at, you know, huge companies, and that's amazing. You know, I've seen some amazing careers kind of bloom out of that era. But not me. I decided to.
But not me.
I decided to be a creative person and stick to the kit and evolve my DP skill set and the directing skill set and the producer skill set, and that kept going. So. Yeah, that's how I got into the industry. But as I was saying, still trying to activate community-related stuff.
Yeah.
It
so
hurt.
you did the jobs to get the money, but you also did the little passion projects and help people out. And
exactly.
Like that,
it hurt so much just to work for money.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
People were like, they're like, what? What do you mean? You're doing well. It's like, dude, it's hard. It's hard because you go from poetry and dignified Chicano characters and whatever you want to do as an artist, as an actor, kind of thing.
It feeds a different part of living.
Different part. It was so difficult to put those two worlds together. So it's like, you got to become neck down and go work on these sets where they're going to talk really bad to you. And then, you know, let alone that I'm like a fairly opinionated brown man, you know, and so it's like.
Little boxer or wrestler, pues.
Yeah, it's like, so, you know, as an actor, I learned to, you know, stay there and be brown. But it was, people were, you know, I was always down for that warrior mode. Is like, we're gonna do this. It's fine. You know, just it was the blue collar.
So you've always stayed connected with the artist community and all that, and helping people out to do their little projects and stuff. I don't want to say it's little projects as like a bad thing, but you know, smaller projects that
that aren't funded. That
aren't funded.
That aren't part of this budget.
Yeah.
Arts economy.
Often I borrowed your lights back when you were downtown too,
Yeah.
and things like that. I mean, you help a lot of people out,
Yeah.
and the space itself
Right.
that you guys had downtown.
Right.
Yeah, tell me about how that started.
Well, so it was I want to say it was 2008 or so. My then business partner, my then to be business partner, Pete Galindo, he ran into this front space place on 2nd Street, right next to the Redwood.
Second and Broadway.
Second and Broadway. And,
Civic Center Studios for those that.
No, before that. So
Oh,
this
before
was
that.
before Civic Center.
Okay.
Right, it was before Civic Center. There was a 1-year gallery installation there called the Federal Art Project. And I saw how
Right.
Pete was very committed to that and was like, I got you. Like, what do you need? Let's
Yeah.
go.
And he's the same way too, where he's always helping people out,
Yeah.
always offering space.
Community-based arts, he's more in the arts. His expertise in murals, for example, stands out. And he's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. We invited a bunch of artists. I remember Shizu came around back in the day. It was I'm gonna totally drop names. I can't drop names because
You'll forget people.
blur that out. I don't want to offend folks. But then we had but the first big show was with Willie Aron, and it was kind of his first big installation in a long time, and it was just like, yeah, let's go. There's no money. It was just us.
Yeah.
It was just us. Some help here and there, and the installation went great. And that's when I got to meet the folks from OSCO and more folks that were in the creative realm as well. So and then from there, helping out other folks, like, that's where I met Reyes Rodriguez, for example, over at Tropico de Nopal. Helped him out with some lighting shows back in the day when he had these fundraisers, for example. So it was fun to get to know and use that kit in this way to do things that nobody really was trying to, just trying to elevate the presence, do something more than just make money with the gear.
Yeah, and it's really nice when people show up and you see an element of production or high production value.
There's some care.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that's what I acquired from Hollywood. I acquired protocol and professionalism. I was also a Boy Scout, so maybe that had something to do with it. But it just became this protocol environment that I saw how it made things more efficient. So and that's how I. Anyway,
I'm just gonna take that note down for myself because I like that protocol and professionalism.
Someday, are these recording? Does the sound good? There's nobody on sound, by the way. This is pretty cool. It's just Chico, my man Francisco.
That's cool. We checked it.
He's the homie. And that led to, and then I did there at Federal Art Project, I made a film project series where I invited artists to shoot 1 minute of 35 millimeter film. That's somewhere on the internet. And that was a very fun project. And that was, because I had an old Convis K2M Russian military era camera. That's how down I was, right? Back in the early eBay days, I'm like, oh, there's a 35 mil camera out of Russia I gotta get. And I saved up all this money to get it, and didn't do a whole lot with it, but I shot these projects with it. It was pre-digital cinema days, so it was film stock. But for me, that project, for example, was about that 1 minute. You have 1 minute. We can trim off the top or the tail, and you have 1 minute. 1440 is what it was called. 1440 frames was the project, and everyone has had a set amount of time to shoot a 1 minute project on 35 millimeter at Federal Art Project. So that was kind of my introduction to producer role, if you will, but in the arts. And I was like, that's cool. Everyone pitched in like $50, and we processed the film and telecented it back in the day, and projected it in the theater, in that gallery space, Federal Art Project. Not long after that, Pete comes at me and he's all like, "Hey, check the space out." I'm like, "What?" It was this shaggy carpeted 70s lawyer's office space, and it had all these walls, and I'm like, I don't know about this I'm in production, bro. I don't know about this gallery. It's like and punched holes in the roof. I'm like, okay, this might work. This might work. This is a wild idea. Construction, right? It's like, yeah, I could see it.
I can build it.
I could see it. Drywallero, bro. It's like, I got you. So we did all this demo, and it was just wild. It was just kind of it was wild. It was almost a bad decision.
Yeah.
It was almost like we looked at each other at some point early on. We're like, this is crazy.
Fuck.
This is crazy.
It's a lot of work.
It's crazy. And it took about 3-4 months. No, it really, like, we kicked a lot of butt for the first 90 days or so. But it was like 17 tons of trash that got taken out. I installed a grid there, put in a psych, and that was the beginnings of me learning, one more business thing.
Yeah.
And the idea was to have a space to do production. Once again, be in control of the means of production.
Yeah.
That was always part of it, right?
Yeah.
But of course, try to involve professional clients that are actually going to pay bills.
Yeah.
And there was some of that happening. And eventually that became an event space. Yeah.
But I do
sorry.
want to get into no, you're fine.
Yeah.
I do want to get into a little bit about your clients that you have and the things that you shot there. And I know that our listeners have definitely seen your work because it's all over the fucking, the stream, the stream universe.
Yeah.
But specifically like your title sequences, right?
Yeah.
And then how did that happen? And give us some names of some of the shows that you made. The actual title sequences that we all, sometimes skip, but we watch.
Sure. I mean, one that immediately comes to mind that I shot there at Civic was the Narcos. Back in 2015 or so. Some of those elements in the title sequences of the Narcos Netflix show were shot there. And there was also a promo where there's all this cocaine and the date and Latin America that blows away and all this stuff. And it was shot high-speed camera with the Phantom and all these things.
I came in one time to pick up the lights, and I think you were burning like money or something that day. And there was like 1,000 lights and a tiny little setup.
Yeah.
But I was like, what the fuck is this guy doing right here? But
they're doing 2,000 frames a second. It's
crazy.
But
that work is fucking pristine, dude.
Oh, thanks,
it's
man.
beautiful. I mean, not just I don't know who does the edit, but not just the shots, because the shots are clean and beautiful. But then there's also the edit.
Right.
That's perfect.
And that was with I want to say that was with Digital Kitchen, but another big client of mine that I was both gaffer and DP for off and on over the years, even up until a couple of years ago, even up until the pandemic, is Prologue, and of Kyle Cooper fame, who did the fantastic sequence for Seven, the movie.
Okay.
So I was working with that team throughout the years, but I got to work with Juan Ruiz Anchia, an ASCDP who did Glenn Ross.
Wow.
So he was kind of like, in my line of cinematography comprehension, he was kind of like the final master that I had to pass through as gaffer, right? And I got to see how he used placement, and it just, I understood that one missing thing where it's like, this is how all the pieces come together. And he's Spanish, but he loved that from Spain, and he loved that I spoke Spanish. So he was always like, Luis. And amongst all the guys, the electricians that I had on my team, they started being like, Luis. But it was great because I had never worked with someone that respected lighting, cinematography, that was nominated. I believe he was nominated for an Oscar for that. And he was an ASCDP, old school for sure. But it was you could say he was in his last years of his career. He's still shooting. I mean, but está grande el señor. But I learned a lot from that effort, from that creative realm. And at some point, some of those jobs, I wound up doing some of these elements when he couldn't work and all that. So that's how I got some of those title sequences.
That's badass.
Yeah.
That's also something that people don't take into consideration is that, people go to film school because they want to be a director and they want to, but these jobs, these jobs that are, just that one little sequence at the beginning of a film are very well paid jobs.
Yeah.
That, they're out there. So.
Yeah. And that's part of the Maverick realm. It's not, it's non-union, but it's still high impact. You try to make it high impact.
But you got to make a name for yourself first, right? So
yeah, and that's how it is. It's like people get to know you. But at the same time, I was doing a lot of lighting design, LD work for reality shows. Early 2010s, I was doing a lot of these studio shows,
There
these after shows. No, this is at another. This was in Glendale stages, a few other stages around town. I started doing these after shows for MTV and Bravo with this company called Buna Murray and a few other companies in town that are famous for doing reality shows. So I started doing. That's where I refined my studio lighting technique, doing these talk shows. How do you get that shadow out of there? It's like, here, I mean, that's kind of why you can see all this, is just to give the world an idea, more or less what it looks like, BTS. So that's where I refined some of that practice, the stage environment, which informed Civic, which informed this place eventually. But that was word of mouth, and eventually a lot of young folk came in with a different kind of resource and or privilege. So all these digital cinema cameras came in to Los Angeles. It's amazing how many people aren't from LA that work in the industry. It's amazing.
Yeah. It's stupid.
It's ridiculous, especially from Michigan. But it's just, I don't get it. But it's, and there, we could talk about all that, but that's a completely different social environment, political environment. So that led to less and less cinematography work because you had more and more Mavericks with kits coming in. But because I was such a lighting person, such a lighting DP, I got to be known in my circles as a lighting DP because I was about beauty and taking care of lighting placement and all these things. So as a cinematographer, it became, readily available, and I had the kit. So I could give you a discount, bro, but you gotta hire the whole kit, bro. You hire me, you bring all this, bro. It's like total.
It comes with the
It's
gear.
a little bit of the Maverick outsider thing.
Hire me as a DP, but don't go to Quixote to get your stuff. I got my kit.
I got a good
So you're
kit.
renting the kit from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that happens in this town, right? And then it's about who you know.
Yeah.
And and whether or not you cheer for the same football team. Like it gets that tribal. It's just like, wow, okay, cool,
Yeah.
So
I've seen some of that. I mean, I got to work on sets, but I mean, as a security wrangler.
Right.
But I did see some of the what you're talking about, like political and teams and some motherfuckers throw you under the bus for like no reason, just to fucking just to get their fucking side of this, whatever.
Yeah.
That is a whole
different thing.
whole different thing.
I mean, the one that I hate, real quick, the one I hate the most.
We have time.
The one I hate the most is when Uncle Bob Grip, in Hollywood, calls nephew don't know shit from Ohio to come in to sit on a show that flips on his first show. Sorry, Ayatsy, I'm sorry.
No, it's true.
It's like, this kind of stuff, right? And so people from LA, people from SoCal, like, not only is it hard to get there, and they're great gigs. People are going to fight for them left and right. It's a lot of responsibility, of course. It's very skilled. Not just anyone can get it. It is very competitive, all of that. But it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyhow, so that's,
So I want to get to the point where we got here to this studio.
Right.
But then I want to talk about your film.
Sure. Yeah.
So how did you end up moving all of your stuff to Van Nuys? We're in Van Nuys, everybody. And let me just introduce the space. This is a space called A Very Good Space, which is a beautiful name, by the way. And it's a studio out in Van Nuys where you've moved your business to. And just tell us about it. And
this is a very good space.com.
Literally and legally.
Legally, part of a very good agency.com, and I'm 1/3 partner or partner in this venture. Right?
Okay.
And a very good was a client of mine, and we wound up doing branded content in a very documentarian, independent cinema kind of way, with cinema cameras, treat the lighting right. It was for software products, for architecture software. But we took it serious. The team took it serious. Len Dichter, my business partner here, he took it serious. It's like, this is great. Everyone, we're trying our best with the skinniest crew. And we jumped around the country and grabbed all these fantastic firms and how they go about making things with the software. So it was a documentary, but it was also a commercial. So branded content.
Okay.
Won some awards, all that. We did pretty well. Ran 3 seasons.
What was the name of that?
That was for a product called Graphisoft.
Oh, okay.
Graphisoft, and you can find it. You can find that on Vimeo, and it's a whole series. They're 5-minute series about this whole practice. 50 episodes total, more or less. So
Wow.
yeah, with little Aries, just me. And you know who was on some of these tours? Our good friend Joe Rios.
Yeah. He was always telling me
He's
out in Chicago.
Out in Chicago, like what's going on? Him and Pablo Aguilar, if you know.
Yeah, I know Pablo. Yeah.
And I'd had work with Pablo, and I needed someone like a Joe. They're like, you know what? I need someone that gets along. Everyone needs to get along because we're traveling for weeks.
Yeah.
And so I made Joe a
That's
grip.
really important, though, by the way.
Yeah, it was. I did the Chicano traveling carpa thing. Like, I get it. Smelly socks are a thing. It's just so yeah. And Joe, Joe came. He wasn't much of a grip, but he wound up helping us out. I recruited him.
Yeah.
I was like,
Joe's a worker.
He's a worker.
He's a worker.
He's from
Like,
Fresno.
whatever the fuck
he has no
you
choice.
need to do, he'll work his ass off.
Shut up.
Yeah,
Shut up, bro. And I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but I'm gonna talk about it. Him and a friend.
Okay.
Maybe you have to cut this out because I didn't get permission to say this.
Beep, beep, beep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty dope. Anyhow, so I brought him into that fold, and he gripped, and eventually he helped at the studio as time went on. He was helping at the studio. That's how he got to know the gear.
Yeah.
But, poet, grip, and back to poet. Like, get out of here. You suck as a grip. You got to go back to writing, bro. I'm kidding. So, and with that client, with Len, they were looking for offices. They already had an office for editing these projects and other projects. And we started making other things and more things, and so I just kept going. And he was in the look for an office. I'm like, hey, have you ever given the idea of a studio? Just throwing it out there. If you're going to be paying for space, why not have a space that pays itself? Just a thought. And I think that clung, that idea stuck. And maybe a year or two later, we're looking for spaces. And
That's awesome.
And then the pandemic came about, and we found this place, and this became the pandemic project. At the end of 2020.
Wow.
Is kind of where this started.
What do you mean it became the pandemic project?
Yeah, I mean, everyone was locked down, and we're like, okay, it's a
let's work on this while.
It's a perfect time to build a stage. Like, production's down.
So you guys built all this here?
All this, yeah. This is a brainchild of mine.
Nice.
I literally, I measured this out the second we closed the lease, designed all this out just to my experience, how the sweep should go, the height, the grid's at 18 feet, if anyone cares, the pre-installed lighting, all this, just bringing in my skill set, making it a turnkey environment. It's useful for us for a very good agency and as a production company, production entity. But it's also turnkey for clients in town, in the industry. Softbox overhead, the kit's here. We have cameras, though mostly people just need the space, and then they bring in their whole circus. The lighting is pre-installed, the grid. It's fairly quiet. Yeah. Still pretty quiet.
Good.
And Chico and I, who's over here behind camera, we put in all this sound baffling insulation called Insul Quilt. And my buddy's over, my buddy George San Vargas over at, I forget the name of his grip company, I'm embarrassed. These guys.
I'll put it down here below.
Yeah, they're also a small grip company. They were gifted with uninstalling some gaming environment, and he calls me up. He's like, "Hey, there's all this Insul Quilt over here, man." And I'm like, "All right,
let's get it."
We went down. I mean, because that stuff is expensive. If anyone knows anything about production, everything is expensive. Because I describe it as everything is ultimately customized. in this industry because they don't make millions of these things. They're only making maybe a couple thousand of these things. You know? So it's very pricey. Anyhow, so installed the space and I went wild with what I would like. And I made it more or less a space that I could shoot 80% of everything I've ever worked on. Title sequences, green screen stuff, certain talk shows, music videos. So, you know, the environment can go all kinds of colors. I was going to give us a more party look, but, you know.
I mean, it's fine.
You know, I didn't want to.
I know what it can be. We didn't
We'll close out the show with the party look. How about that?
That's okay.
Yeah.
So
And that's how this came about. Yeah.
this is fucking amazing, this space here. And I mean, you have done all these, you know, all the little, not little, but all of the title sequences, and you've done reality TV stuff, and you also had, like, I think MTV as a client.
I had
downtown.
Yeah. Yep. And BET.
And BET.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I want to know now how you got involved with this movie that's now touring the film circuit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So
Independent film circuit.
it's the independent. Right now, it's doing the international film circuit. The film is called HopeSoledad.com.
All the links will be below. So.
Yeah, and that film was brought to me by my film school buddy, Yolanda Cruz, a filmmaker out of Oaxaca from the Chatino country near Juquila in Oaxaca. And you know, she was a filmmaker at UCLA. She was in the grad program. She had done a lot of documentary, and we worked together a little after, you know, in the early 2000s. I went to Oaxaca and shot a tiny documentary with her and a buddy of mine who also went to film school, Manuel Huerta. We shot this tiny documentary. I got to know the landscape of how production down there works. You know, she was in LA for a while in Silver Lake. We made another short film back in 2010, I think it was, 2012. And that made it into the Morelia Film Festival, which was interesting for a 2-3 minute film that we shot on a weekend.
I love that.
That one was called Echo Bear. And it was just like, all right, she wanted to go into fictional, right? She was a documentarian in the documentary realm. She has some fantastic projects. I think some of them are on Netflix. A lot of Oaxaca themed projects. And somewhere in early 2017, she's like, Luis, tenemos que hacer una película. And I'm like, all right, you know, shoot. Sends me a script in May, very minor tweaks, and then in November I'm scouting in 2017. But this is the privilege. This film is the proof of concept of the privilege of having this kit. That's why this kit, you know what I mean? It is 2017 and it did take a long time, but this is why.
It's beautiful, dude.
Right.
It is beautiful.
Thanks.
Like, you did an amazing job.
Yo,
I mean,
thanks,
the whole
man.
thing is beautiful.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, independent film, just take a camera and lug it around and you get that shot and get this shot. But to get every single shot right, it's not an easy task.
Right.
And I was watching. And I was paying attention.
And you got an eye.
Every single shot is clean, man.
Thanks, man.
It's a gorgeous, gorgeous film.
Thanks, yeah, shot that on an Arri, loaned to me.
So just a technical question: was there lights, or was it all just natural?
I mean, the best compliment.
The fucking sun rises and sunsets.
Thanks.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we got really lucky. That film is a miracle. I mean, I got the ideal lens kit from my friend Ernesto Lomelli, who's a fantastic DP and gear owner here in LA. He went to AFI. Very generous with that kit. I mean, still paid him, you know, but it's still like I would never have been able to get that lens package, for example. And then the camera package was also, you know, super heavily discounted. That was off Hollywood cameras, I believe, with Rodrigo Itarrulde. I'm not sure if we can say that. So Rodrigo Itarrulde hooked that one up. You know, and we got a tiny team, literally got a combi, rented one in Oaxaca.
What is that?
It's basically those little vans that take you from Oaxaca City to the beach. Rented one of those. Yeah. Put a crew in that. It's a two-person acting team.
Wow.
And it's just, it happened. It had to happen. it just
So
this is the thing. The story sometimes this is where the producer hat turns on. It's like this story has to be told.
Yeah.
Done. We have to at least try to tell this story. We have to at least capture this. And I knew that the film was a landscape film. The landscape was also a character. And these two characters, you know, ultimately, you know, and Yolanda wrote and directed the project. I produced, EP'd it, executive produced it, and DP'd it. But because I could do all these roles and we edited. But because I could do all these roles, the costs are so cheap. I didn't have to ask any money from anyone.
Got it.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That we don't need permission. I don't want to have to be like, oh, can I make this film?
You're your own green light.
Can you green light my project?
Yeah.
That's been the mission. That's been the mission.
That's badass.
And so the idea was to make this film at the best quality. I mean, it's a DCP. It was colored by a fantastic colorist, Andre Rivas, who is working on Chivo's new film right now.
Okay.
I mean, just got blessed and lucky. Maria Murillo, who did the post sound, fantastic job. We've received many compliments for that. And it's just, it's a miracle. Yeah. The project was a miracle because, I mean, it was a terrain to try to film that project.
Even logistically.
Oh yeah.
Like, did you plan the shots? Of course you planned the shots, but
no,
you didn't.
No.
Because it's also a documentary.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of the things are just happening around you. So you just, right? I mean, there's, just to give you a gist of it, it's the march that people go to see La Virgen in Oaxaca. So there's a lot of people that are going on this pilgrimage, and you just have to show up at places and record this. And then use your actors in front of whatever's going on. Wow.
So that pilgrimage was the backdrop to these two characters that were engaging in their life's dilemmas.
I had to keep like pausing and going like, how did he set that up so quick, or how did that shot like? I mean,
it was lit, but it was minimal lighting. It was all battery operated lighting. The best compliment I received was from at one of these workshops. Someone was like, "It wasn't lit, right?" Awesome, that's great. Yeah, a lot of it was lit, but it was subtly. It was very subtle. The lighting. It was very not there. It was and the way it was lit was meant to be imperfect as it would be in Oaxaca. You're not going to get the perfect lighting. So let's go ahead and place the camera. Let's place the light where I wouldn't typically place it. When you're doing beauty Hollywood stuff. So that was a big signifier to folks. It's like, wow, this looks really documentary. Well, some of that is true. But yeah, a lot of these shots, we went out, fished for these shots with a cinema package, $250,000 camera package.
Yeah, you're just carrying that shit around. That's crazy.
$250,000, an ARRI package, all this, and I'm doing most of the focus because we're moving.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and low light and all that, anamorphic as well, and it was just, and to me that was like, this is fun. It was a lot like
fun.
camping.
Yeah, just watching it. Yeah. Thinking of it to me was fun. Yeah. Right? I mean, I could see how you were there just like boom, boom. Yeah. It's things that when you're working, your natural instinct turns on and you just start doing stuff and
you go with what you know. And you have to go by instinct and all the movies you watched and all the permission you've gotten from other filmmakers and DPs. By watching all these things, you're like, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. The editor in me is all like, we don't have enough coverage. We need coverage. We got coverage. Yeah. This kind of thing. Yeah. And the frames have to be clean so things cut together and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. We're showing up to a location and we're shooting like 5-10 minutes later because you can't think about it a whole lot because the sun's going away. Damn. You got to go. Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. So, how long were you guys down there?
3 weeks was principal.
Wow.
Really, the core was 2 weeks. It was a 3-week run, and then we had 1 week very light shooting, and then I went back at the end of 2019 to do pickups. Okay. So, and just to premise a little bit, the film is about these two women on a pilgrimage. Yeah. One's from Oaxaca, and the other one is displaced from the U.S. With a UCLA sweater.
Yeah.
So, and they meet, and they go on this pilgillimage and work out the turmoil. Right?
And the vibe is very independent. Like,
very independent.
Very like chill. Very just experiential, I guess. Yeah. Like you're experiencing this whole thing with them.
Right.
I love films like that.
That's the reason I think the concept works so well for me because no matter what, we're in this landscape. Yeah.
And you were experiencing.
And we were experiencing these moments and sneaking into these places. Well, not sneaking. I mean, it wasn't.
Oh, but
we're not trying to be sneaky, but Yeah.
I mean, obviously you were there, but
Yeah.
some of the like things that happened naturally, like the guy saying the speech,
Right. Right.
moments like that were beautiful
Right.
and captured perfectly.
Right.
Captured really perfectly. I don't know. It's just
So that's
I was really blown away watching it. Yeah.
thanks. It's a hybrid film technically. It got into Morelia at the end of 2021, November 2021,
Nice.
and that led into FICUNAM, the International Film Festival at UNAM, and then it went to Bolivia, and then it did Brazil a little bit in the Latinoamericano film festival they have down there. It was opening night for Directoras Latinoamericanas down in Brasilia. It was also in Spain. And it's just like, wow. Programmers know themselves, so they're like, hey, check this film out. I was very pleasantly surprised that it was being recognized in that way. The effort was being recognized. The actresses did a fantastic job. The crew, it was just, we came together and we figured it out. We were basically camping for a few weeks, making a movie. That's filmmaking, in Oaxaca, we finished editing. We had a good cut in 2020, but the pandemic hit, so we sat on it a bit longer. And we got lucky with Pepe Carlos and Alex.
Oh yeah, the music.
Yeah,
Alex
Bendaña?
Bendaña. I'm sorry if we're saying your name wrong.
I'm sorry, bro.
But Alex, the bass player.
Yeah, from La Santa
Santa
Cecilia.
Cecilia, bass player and the accordion player.
Yeah, and they killed it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
They killed it.
It's gorgeous.
And because it was the pandemic, nobody was working.
That's awesome.
And they were like, "Hey, pay for the studio time. Got you, bro. Let's go."
Let's do it.
And just we just needed 3 elements more or less that we could, the opening, some score with pilgrimage a little bit, and the ending, and so the film got better during the pandemic because of that.
That's
and
good. That's good.
The coloring happened at that time, and as I said, the sound all came together as well. It was just, again, miraculous. It was miraculous.
What do you guys foresee happening with this film now?
Well,
it's still doing the circuit.
Well, I'm doing the North American tour.
Okay.
I submitted to a whole bunch of festivals in the U.S. And we'll see how that goes. Yeah. But I know how it goes.
Yeah.
I know how it goes. It's a Spanish language, indigenous Spanish and English.
Both languages, yeah.
In Oaxaca, micro cinema. So I don't know where it fits in the United States. I don't know where it fits in the streamers. I just, it's cool.
It fits at Lomley's, it fits at
cool.
fits at art houses.
Yeah. I mean, on my own account, if I can have my way, I'll probably rent a theater and invite all the friends from LA at some
That'd
point.
be awesome.
Yeah.
Dude.
We're going to premiere it.
Which we were going to do before the pandemic,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I remember that.
Loosely in the plan.
You had invited me to something like that.
I wanted to have a screening, a work in progress screening with all my my creative folk, friends and whatnot.
Well, I hope that film gets a lot of love, and I hope that at least it gets a lot of attention for the director and yourself and the production.
Thanks. Yeah.
House or company, whatever you want to call it, because it's a solid fucking movie.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
congrats
you.
on that.
And I mean, one thing I want to point out, it is an LA produced film.
Yeah.
But it's a Mexican film.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Just because we're on the subject of all this, I'm wondering if you saw the new Iñárritu movie.
I have not.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, so we can't talk about that.
No. I can't wait to see it.
But yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, it's great.
We're I guess we're winding down here. So I mean, we could keep going, but is there something that we haven't talked about that you would like to bring up? Anything that you'd like to highlight?
Well, let's see. Well, the production company that made the film is Flor de Luz. That's my
Flor de Luz.
That's my small production company.
All of those links will be below, so people can follow up on that.
That's the entity that's making these. That's the micro cinema entity.
Got it.
And I have another project that I've feverishly been trying to get that script together, looking at shooting pretty soon.
Okay.
Also in Mexico. And why Mexico is because production is so cost effective down there. And it's so expensive to shoot in the U.S. Down there, it's not as difficult. So it's still a proof of concept process. It's still like, let's make more in Mexico. One more film. I have maybe another 2 films in Mexico.
That's awesome.
But I still want to try to pilot things here in the U.S. in this studio in L.A. That's a lot more L.A. centric.
Got it.
So as a producer, it's just all these things are happening, and some of these things I will direct, I will co-direct or write. So it's all these things, but trying to make the things that nobody's making.
Yeah.
Nobody's greenlighting these things,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
so complicated to get to the place where you can go into these offices and say, "Hey, I have an idea." You know,
Yeah,
it's a
fuck that.
pilgrimage in Oaxaca. You're
Yeah,
gonna love
yeah.
it. It just, that's so hard. You know?
Yeah, and I think we were when we were having coffee
Yeah.
when we were talking about like Hollywood and shit like that. But it's like we're making movies for the movies that you're gonna make, or God damn it, I'm fucking up this whole statement.
The projects I'm trying to.
But it's not always for them, and they don't give a fuck about them.
Right.
So if you can do these movies within your own little ecosystem
Right.
and show them to the people that are also within your, and it's a large group of people,
Yeah.
like the market's huge, so it's not like, so if you can do that and not have to worry about that motherfucking green light from somebody else, then
Yeah.
fuck yeah.
That's
dude.
exactly the point.
Yeah.
That's the reason for all of it.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
reason for all of it. And some will be feature length, some will be more like series. I'm seeing that as a very likely possibility. Doing more of a series style production, content production. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pilot a little bit of that, and see who are these, production side collaborators. People that understand what I'm trying to do, that want to come into this and see how we can just do things that aren't being made,
Yeah.
and or also prep and plan for these pitching sessions with folks. I mean, there's
Yeah.
all this kind of help online,
Yeah.
but it's very inaccessible. Those corporate structures, it's very difficult to convince them that we have the talent, the skill set, the practice, the ambition, the drive, the just give me $1 million and I'm gonna make a film for you, get out of my face attitude. Like that, it's so impossible to do that with any major production company. It's impossible. You can't just show up. I know it's a fantastic script. This is a fantastic idea. You need to greenlight this. Oh, I need a pitch deck. You need my lawyer. You need me to register how, what, all these things that, they do serve a purpose, but it makes a project, even to begin a project, costly. And that keeps us out of this, hands-on filmmaking capability, the possibilities of making films without permission. We're and I can't wait to get to a place where I can make comfortably in LA, where I can make comfortably, I mean, there's so much to do here. And really, the next thing for me is finding that, I'm inspired by Cassavetes, right? He had his pool of actors. He was editing in the garage. He was shooting his own stuff as need be. I mean, this is what I'm talking about.
Cooking at home.
Cooking, yeah.
Yeah, just fucking.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid of that.
Yeah.
And, that is, I would love to have this Chicano new wave. That's kind of the dream.
Yeah.
Where it's like we can develop these things in a way that is so underneath the radar. We don't care. Don't need to. You know what? It's fine.
Yeah.
We got this. We had to become
Exactly.
we had to be our own poets. We've had to publish ourselves.
Yeah.
We've had to make our own murals in our own communities.
Yeah.
We've had to do all these things on our own. Why not cinema? And right now it's like,
And it's at a place where it's possible.
yeah, it's at a place where technically it's possible. You don't need the $150,000 camera all the time. Productions aren't necessarily multi-million-dollar productions anymore for technical reasons. You can really bring all these resources, be more concise about all these things. So that's really the inspiration. That's really where I wanted to go. And I don't have to direct everything, but I'm going to be very, I'm going to apply my experience as much as possible so people don't make mistakes in collaboration. So there's
Well, it's your kitchen now, so.
Yeah, there's some of that. Now I get to
cool.
green light.
Yeah.
It's like-
It's your kitchen, bro. So like, you're making this possible not only for yourself but for the people that you bring along with you. So, so
try
that's
to help
fucking
out.
awesome.
Yeah. And there's a few other projects that are coming.
Yeah.
So
Well, I hope to somehow, some way, be involved, even if in the smallest way, to help you out in whatever I can do. I'm excited for all this that's happening.
Oh, thanks,
and yeah, and then you know, seeing your movie and all that already is like, it's awesome. So
Thank you. Yeah.
you're kicking ass already. So
Thanks, man. Well, thanks for the support. You know, it's like great book, by the way. I find that this whole thing started when I picked up the book.
yeah,
Like,
we were having a coffee downtown because
right.
I was delivering the book, and that's when
right.
you offered this space.
Yeah.
You said, hey, you know, do one of your shows at the space.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, why don't you be the guest?
What am I gonna talk about?
You were a little scared at first, but I'm glad you did it.
Thanks,
because,
man.
Yeah, because I mean, after talking with you for that 1 hour, I
Yeah.
realized all of these things that you're doing, and now talking with you for this hour, there's so much more that I've learned about what you are doing, and
Yeah.
it's fucking exciting. And I know it's not an easy road, and it's not an easy road. It hasn't been an easy road to where you've gotten to, and I can imagine it's not going to be an easy road ahead. But it's the road you're on, and let's fucking do it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Wait, we're not done.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a question that I ask everybody at the end
Okay.
of each show, and try to answer in one sentence if you can. But if somebody came up in front of you and had looked at all of your IMDb and looked at your resume and saw all of the theater that you've done and everything that you did in this world, and they're like, Jesus Christ, you know, you run a studio and you have all these other things going on, and they just asked you, how would you answer in one sentence if they asked you, Luis Fernando Guizar, how do you do it?
Oh, that's messed up. Because the road is better than the finish line.
Okay,
The experience,
that's good.
you know, how do I do it? Porque me aguanto.
Well, that's all good.
It hurts, but you gotta do it. Somebody's
It
got
hurts, but you gotta do it. Yeah, the road is better than the finish line. It's all about the journey. It's, you know,
It's true.
the
That's so
metaphor
true
there, so.
for me.
Yeah.
So,
All right, bro. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing all your projects come to fruition. And we'll see you guys next week.